Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Lost in the Ether. My name is Spencer. Joining me tonight is my friend Eric, and
Hello.
today we are going to be going over the Book of Boba Fett trailer and just sharing our thoughts and what we're looking forward to from the new show from Disney. So, I think I'll let Eric go first, and then we can just get on discussing everything. So, Eric, whenever you're ready. Um, Eric, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, let me go over. Yeah, so I was excited to see that trailer and excited to see uh, the new Boba Fett trailer and the video. A lot of different characters were in that video. It kind of took me back to the it took me back to kind of the Jabba's temple and everything and all that history that goes with it. And just some really familiar faces from The Mandalorian as well. So that was the thing that I took away from it. I did see kind of a slim version of it, not the entire thing, but I kind of saw the slim down version. But it looks really amazing, and it just kind of brought me back to that third film of Star Wars.
You mean
So
Return of the Jedi?
yeah,
Okay.
I was blanking.
Yes. But yeah, as far as the trailer goes, I think it was probably one of the better trailers that we've seen from Disney for a while. I think it hit all the right kind of notes you want to see from something like Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as you were saying before, there was Jabba's palace, which is technically more of a monastery, because
Yeah.
the background lore behind it is that the monks in the monastery, which are those weird spider droids with the brains in them, those guys, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, are they did that in order to separate their mind from their body so they can become enlightened, even though that's a really
Mm-hmm.
stupid way of going about enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what was probably though the I think other than obviously Boba Fett single-handedly disarming and kicking the butt of guys with energy shields and electric staves,
Mm-hmm.
just awesome badass moments. I think the more interesting aspect of the whole thing was how they're sort of turning Boba Fett into the big mafia boss of
Mm-hmm.
the galaxy, and I I don't know. I don't know how I feel about because it seems really like old school mob bossy kind of. Hey, hey there, boss.
Yeah.
We gotta go fetch this thing. We'll be right back. That kind of. It felt kind of
Yeah.
like that a little bit with some of the scenes.
Right. I also kind of feel like it's kind of like, well, you owe us some money, so here's what you're gonna do for us. It's kind of that same type of vibe. It's like we hear that, you know, you're doing this or this, and what I found interesting was the voice from that trailer is the same voice that we heard from The Mandalorian. So it kind of brings you back also with that, and then the soundtrack is the same type of sound from the soundtrack of The Mandalorian. So it's very, very
Well,
that
there's
type of vibe.
definitely like they're trying to have more cohesion between the shows because Disney how they're doing Star Wars is that they're kind of making it the they're copying Marvel's format for Star Wars, which in a sense is
Hmm.
okay. Like I don't mind series cohesion for the
Right.
franchise, but it's one of those things where it's like, guys, let's be a little bit more distinctive. Boba Fett's been around for what 40 some odd years now.
Hmm.
He's his own thing. We don't need him necessarily being co-opted with the Mandalorian. Not that I don't have a problem with it. Reminder, I don't have a problem with what Disney's doing with it. It's just one of those things where it's like Boba Fett is kind of his own thing, and I can definitely understand how people would be like, let's not make this just a Mandalorian spin-off. Let's make this legit Boba Fett and just his own thing.
Right. Right.
So, and that and that's fine. I saw what's her name? The bounty hunter's name. What is
Yeah,
I'm drawing a
I know
blank.
what you're. I'm also drawing a blank. Hold on. I got it.
It's
Finnick.
Finnick. That's right. I was thinking like, is it Kennick? Is it Varric? Like what?
Yeah, Fennec
Finnick.
Shan.
Yeah, Finnick. So Finnick, who I think is probably the best character that they've added to Star Wars since Disney co-opted it, besides, obviously Mandalorian and Ahsoka. Finnick is one of my sort of low-key favorites. Like, she doesn't show up much, and I don't really follow her that much, but like every time she's on screen, maybe it's just the actress, but there's something about her as a character that really makes me feel like, yeah, she belongs here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She
I saw
she
that
she
right away.
definitely should be working with Boba. So that
Right.
I'm really happy to see that overall.
Right.
Um,
But there is a mix with her that you have a type of you trust her, you don't you always feel like there's something maybe she's hiding. We've seen that in the past too with the Mandalorian series, but
well, that's just
um
being a bounty hunter. Period. Like, do you like Boba Fett? Were you really trusting him throughout that whole thing too?
no.
I mean, he's
No.
Mandalorian, so like I think he's safe with the other Mandalorians. But like, I
Right.
mean, he's still a bounty hunter at heart. And even though
Hmm.
they're trying to say I'm not a bounty hunter anymore, or kind of thing, it's like it's going to come off a little bit because that's who your character is. It's what he's good at.
Hmm.
So with them making him more of a mob boss, I think sort of keeps into that vein of bounty hunting and the underworld
Hmm.
kind of thing. But I think what they're trying to go for is the sort of we're criminals, but they're trying to bring back the honor of it all. I think that's what Boba's arc's going to be throughout the whole storyline is that he's fighting more unethical crime bosses throughout this whole thing.
Hmm. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you probably picked this up too in the trailer. The two kind of monster looking not goblin guards, but the ones that were kind of with Jabba's inside Jabba's palace. The one got pretty much eaten by the big old monster that Luke had to fight. They're in there as well, which is kind of interesting. How you have some history there with the same type of creatures and things, and with the
Yeah, you're
the gob.
talking. Yeah, you're talking about the guards, and they seem to have been siding with Boba, if I
Yeah,
saw that
yeah,
correctly.
yeah. They are. They're behind him, kind of like in guarding their king or their leader. So
Yeah.
um, and like a pig type
No, I know
goblin
what you're
beast.
talking about. I just don't remember the
Yeah,
name. It's been a long
yeah. It's
time
just
since
it.
I've dived into Star Wars lore for
Right,
obvious
right.
reasons.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of different pieces and different creatures that emerge in that trailer from the minute and 48 version of it, the main trailer. So yeah, I can't wait for it. It's just yeah, it brought back right away. It just brought back that just the Mandalorian vibe, just that sound, just that you know Indian type that sound, just the soundtrack I just
You
love.
mean the
But
oboe?
yeah, whatever it is. Um,
But
but anyway,
it's for the most part though. I think there's going to be for the first season. It's just going to be. I feel like, especially the first few episodes, just going to be fan service. You know that.
right,
So they're going to
right,
be focusing on Tatooine a whole lot, trying to milk that planet off as much as they can before they move on to something new. But
right,
I
right.
what I am hoping from the franchise overall is that you sort of get this that Boba I don't know. I kind of want to see him sort of make this unspoken alliance with the New Republic
Hmm.
and sort of have it because he's already worked with them to some extent, especially in that scene where Karen Dune and the Mandalorian were taking back Gru. So there's at least a healthy respect among him and members of the New Republic. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, maybe it might be a cool angle for them to just go in and make the New Republic sort of de facto give it over to Boba in that territory.
Right.
Because with the series takes like, all right, so this is right after the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian like was it like what 5, 10 years after the Battle of Endor or the last or the Return of the Jedi.
Yes, I believe you're right.
Okay, so the war just ended recently. There's still a lot of lack of authority in a lot of places in the galaxy, and I'm hoping that the New Republic just sort of negotiates with Boba, saying, "We'll have a similar relationship with you, like we did with, like the Empire did with Jabba the Hutt, but you need to be on our side on things, and you need to be at least more ethical than him."
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, where they have a standoff but also mutual respect at the same time. And I'm just curious to see if that's what they'll implement in this, because I feel like that's the direction they're going in with this, because the whole rule by fear, I rule by respect kind of thing plays
Right.
in.
Right.
Because it doesn't seem, Boba doesn't strike me as the character, especially with him going through the shows, he doesn't strike me as the character who would be against the Republic. He's just, don't get in my way, I won't get in yours kind of person.
Right. Like owl in my territory, but just
Yeah.
stay away, and I own this. And if there is any strife or some trespassing or anything, know that there will be hell to pay. So
Yeah, and I don't know. I just want to sit back and just watch how they're going to do things, because with Fett being what is essentially a warlord now,
hmm
I wonder if
yeah,
there's actually going to be outright. They never do this, and it pisses me off that Disney and Star Wars never really want to give us this. Is that I just want to see an actual all out brawl between factions.
you want to see like what Endgame was.
Sort of, but more in the context of what Boba is to the rest of his opponents. So like how I picture this is sort of Boba's going around, he's building up his alliances, he's building up his supporters, he's taking out rival warlords and installing his own loyal warlords next
Yeah,
to him.
regime.
So it's in a weird way, I would say something like Shadow of War kind of deal,
Mm.
but more of just the crime syndicates. Because there,
Mm.
a lot of people are already talking like, well, maybe Boba Fett's going up against Crimson Dawn, and maybe that's the story that they're having. And I'm thinking to myself
Mm.
like, maybe I wouldn't be disappointed with that, but I would really want to see for the first season at least is him going around and sort of territory by territory taking ground, taking more troops, taking more settlements, and just sort of establishing himself as an actual powerhouse to go up against Crimson Dawn. Because I don't think they don't want to pull all the stops for the first season on this. They want to milk this as much as they want to begin with. But also, Boba Fett should be getting a second season after this first one, regardless of situation.
Right, right. Do you think it'll be like The Mandalorian? Will they release an episode each week?
Oh, I'm sure. There's no way they
Yeah,
want to do that.
yeah. I mean, I would think so. I mean, obviously, yeah, you kind of get on kind of your, pins and needles waiting for the other one. But I just, as Disney, and what I would do that just to, that's what you do to build interest, and I think that's what they're gonna do. He's gonna go hopefully by territory, try and convince these people to, convince these different, um, you know, what um, groups of different creatures and everything that he that I own you, and this is what you're going to do for me in this. So he starts by you know taking all these different territories and owning his piece of the that universe, so to speak. So they are with him and they are in alliance with him. That way, when if there is an all-out war, he has his stakes in the ground, and he has his men. So
But I actually want to see that all-out war. That's the
Right.
difference. I don't like how Disney does this because it's Disney, and they even when they're dealing with like more adult content, they don't really show outright fighting.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm really getting to the point where it's just like, guys, this is Star Wars. It's in the freaking title of every movie that
Mm-hmm.
we have in. But in every single movie, it's always some underdog thing where they're not in actual battle. It's just like, you know, through the tunnels to the secret mission kind of battle while everybody else does the fighting. And I'm like, guys, no, please just commit to a battle. Because in the original trilogy and even in the prequels, you got these massive scenes of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying they should have the equivalent because obviously, a smaller scale, but like, give me a gang war for this. Give me a solid 2 episodes of straight up Boba Fett and his guys fighting off something or taking something, or just give me that kind of action because at this point, that's all we're really wanting from Boba. All right. Yes, we really appreciate the subplots and what they have out for that. I don't dissuade that it's going to be good, but I need that action from a character that always was just action
Mm-hmm.
for us. Because even in Boba's, you know, story arcs as a character with both, well, just with Disney, because he didn't really have an arc in anything until Disney came along. But it's one of those things where it's like, he's a good guy, but he's still someone who's going to shoot you if you tick him off enough. So please just give
Mm-hmm.
us that conflict, give us that gang war. I want to see it. I want to have that kind of action because I know Boba's the only one in the universe that's going to in the Star Wars universe right now who's going to be able to deliver that. Not even the Mandalorian delivered that. The closest thing we got was 4 guys fighting off stormtroopers, which, no offense, that's not what I'm looking for because we've already had movie after movie with that. But it's one of those things where like I want a legitimate Boba on the ropes fighting with everything he's got, and just just give me that as a climax for the first season, and I'll be perfectly content with anything else in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I think.
it's just like, especially with the beginning of Mandalorian, with all that action that they had, it really built up the beginning well. But I feel like they still didn't give us. I don't know. I want the
Yeah.
factions because obviously in the sequel trilogy, they didn't even give us that. They didn't give us a war between the New Republic and the First Order. They just had, oh, Death Star 3.0 destroys the New Republic. Oh, now it's an underdog story again. It's like, no, I wanted the war. I wanted the conflict. That's what was so great about the Thrawn book trilogy
Mm-hmm.
that everybody loved. It's because it just went straight for the conflict, which was Thrawn trying to take back the old Republic and unite the Empire again. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that was. That's what should have been the sequel trilogy, but Disney decided to uncanon that. And I just want that kind of action in any of these series. All right, because you already know the Ahsoka series is not going to be focusing on that kind of thing. It's going to be focusing on more nuanced subplot with her dealing with a slew of problems with Thrawn. It's not going to be outright war. But with
Right.
Boba, there is outright gang war that I am expecting from this, and I will be disappointed if I do not get that gang war. And I'm not saying give me episode after episode of it. I'm just saying for like an episode or two, give me something where all the clans are wanting to destroy Boba, and he actually is badass enough, like we know he is, to fight them off, and we can get this going. Okay?
Right.
That's what I want. I don't want anything else in that whole season. I know it's going to be good. I know it's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to all of it. But I just want that moment where I just see a Mandalorian fighting off a whole bunch of guys with his gang for 30 minutes. That's what I want.
Right. I got you. Yeah. I mean, I do also think that. I mean, I hope they will do that, but I also think it would be interesting to have certain factions or territories where he goes to kind of, you know, uproot the established, order, so to speak,
Well, that's
and then
assumed.
yeah, I know, but there is resistance. and like literally, well, why don't I just kill you right now? Like who are like, if they don't know really his, how much power he wields and just who he is, they're gonna, just like in the trailer they said it. Like I forget what creature, whatever it was, but he kind of alluded to that where it's like, well, I mean, what's stopping me right now from killing you? Same thing. So I think that's gonna be, you're gonna see that um s- where his people that he's already kind of established as his own, and the top um, leaders in his army, like Fennec and everything. You think they're going to come to his aid and say, well, do you really want that? Do you really want that on your hands? Do you really think you can? You're going to have all these other factions and things up against you now. But do you really want to go that way?
I don't see Fennec being like that. I would see her more as, this is going to be a pain in the ass, right? And he goes,
Yeah,
yes. And she goes,
right,
all right, whatever. Let's do
right.
this.
But kind of where I'm going, where it's like she's, you're gonna try and also play that as well, where it's like you really want to play that game. It's like, okay,
That,
okay,
but
we'll
that's
do
going
that.
to be like the first 3, 4 episodes of the season. That's how that's going to go. There's no other way it can.
Right, but she also, like in the Mandalorian, I also feel that as well, where she's like that, where she's just, you know,
Well, Fennec's
she's
not a
hard to.
bad person. She's just
No, no,
a
no.
bounty
I'm
hunter.
not. Right. I'm not saying she's bad. I'm saying that she's just, she knows where her duties lie, and she knows where her stakes are in the ground, so to speak, and uh and she's just one of those people that you don't want to piss off. And it's like, if okay, you want to fight, go for it. And just like you said, go to town, fine, and then there's nothing left, So I don't know. And then he claims it or whatever, but
Well,
yeah,
he just walked in and claimed it anyway.
right.
So,
Well, yeah, well, that's true. But
because the thing is, Boba Fett's already starting from a position of relative strength anyway in this series. Because if he took over Jabba's direct operation, then that means he already has a faction onto himself right now. And
right
that's sort of the
now,
point. I'm thinking of more of like Galactic Conquest, where he picks planets and goes after planets of other mob bosses, and then either if you're willing to work with me, great. If you're not, you either need to fall in line, or we're going to be having issues.
hmm
Because that's the thing. Because I think what Boba is going to be in this whole series is sort of like the common sense criminal, as
hmm
opposed to all these other guys who are just radical idiots. That's sort of what
yeah,
I'm thinking Disney might do with this as well, because it's one of those things where it's like criminals are not stupid as much as people want to make them out to be.
no,
They're
no,
not.
they're
They're not
not.
going to want to commit violence unless they absolutely have to. Generally, criminals do that out of desperation, not as a first response to anything. So Boba coming in
Mhm.
here, being the reasonable man that he is, he's going to try to strike an alliance before he tries to break one.
Right, but I do believe he will insert some sort of dominance of convincing that he is to.
Well, so long as he's not
I need
T
to.
posing, I'm fine.
Right, but you know what? Why don't I take this off your, like? Why don't I be the? You seem. Why don't I have this? I have you. Or I'm with you. Like sort of joining their group, so to speak, but also know that he now has their trust, so to speak, and then
Yeah.
build from there. So
I've seen that Cody has arrived. Cody,
he has.
are you there?
Everybody out here.
Oh, here we go.
And now I gotta edit the video more.
Right, I was gonna say.
What's going on, guys?
Doing okay.
I've heard your wonderful talk of Boba Fett. Very excited. When he was introduced in The Mandalorian, something I noticed very quickly was that The Mandalorian, as badass as he was, I can't remember his exact name right now. Um, God,
You mean
yeah,
the actor or the?
The character.
the character.
Well,
I think it's
just
like Jarn something.
yeah.
Yeah, like Jaren something. Um, he's badass, and he's got definitely some talent and skills as a Mandalorian. But like compared to Boba Fett, when he was introduced in the Mandalorian. I mean, there's no comparison really. So it's cool to see even in his older age, like he's still a name to sort of be feared in the galaxy. And I like how he's not like for the Empire or for the rebellion. He's just kind of
Hmm.
he's just a
Independent.
man. He's just a man trying to survive out there, and
Hmm.
he's done a really good job because he's been fucked up by a lot. But
Hmm.
it's nice to see the focus go away from the Jedi because the Star Wars universe is huge, and I want to see more than just lightsabers. I want to see the parts that we keep seeing either in the comics or the books. Um, they're doing a Boba Fett, series, which I'm very excited about. Something else I'd like to see is a Darth Maul series. Um, I know that's technically a Sith, but like there's just so many races in the Star Wars universe.
And he didn't
It's
want
pretty
Well,
awesome.
Darth Maul is dead
right, but he didn't
officially.
have
Dead,
a
but
whole lot of screen time, as you just pointed
he
out. But yeah, the
didn't. But he
history
was
Well,
was
no,
such a
nice.
no.
good.
Darth Maul has had plenty of screen time. What are you guys talking about?
I'm saying he just hasn't had a whole lot, like
I
other than
just
that film, other than
I like
No. He was in
no,
the shows.
no.
Like
What
he
I'm
was in
saying is
multiple Star Wars shows for like multiple arcs. He's been around.
no. For me, it's about the live action
Okay.
version. It's the live action. So like what they're doing for Boba Fett, I'd love to see the same actor, but maybe like a beforehand.
Yeah,
Like him
Well,
growing to
he's.
be the Sith. Like I
I
want to
mean, maybe, but that
see.
actor's aged. Remember that movie
but
came out when I was 10.
but you're talking about the animated stuff, right? As well. That's what you're
Yes,
talking
that
about.
I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
I
the
know
whole of
that.
Star Wars.
I know that. I'm just saying in live action one, like Cody's saying,
Yeah,
it's just,
it
the
would
only one
just
that I remember seeing him in is the film with Qui-Gon, and
He was
that's
also
the
in
only one.
Solo.
That's oh, man.
oh true, he was.
Oh man, yeah, he
Maul
was.
has
He
had a
was.
lot of
Yeah,
screen time
you're
as a
right.
character. Just because he hasn't been in live action doesn't mean he's because the things they've already gone through his arc overall. They're just trying to flush out like one thing about him now.
Something that I noticed. I don't know if you guys ever played Star Wars Squadrons, but what they do a really good job of is showing like the story from the Empire side, the point of
No, they
view.
didn't show the Empire side. They just showed someone who was betraying the Empire side.
Oh, I haven't gone that far into it.
So like Squadrons,
Well,
they did a better job in the sense of like, oh, we'll have the Empire showcase itself, but it's just like this isn't Disney just doesn't understand why people would be supporting the Empire. That's the problem. All right.
Hmm.
So Disney is trying to sell the story like, oh, it's the Empire. They're all fascist, and everyone's going to hate them if they just knew the truth. It's like, no. To an extent, that's right. But here's the thing: the reason why the Empire, half of the galaxy, even after the war, still sided with the Empire, was because of actual instability happening in the galaxy. So if you're going to show this kinds of stuff, you have to show the Empire actually doing the kinds of stuff that people would be loyal to them for doing. All
see,
right.
for me, it's not really about as much to the Empire. It's just I want to see more like series like this. Like I kind of want more of a background. Like for example, oh God, what was his name?
You're talking about Ray Park, who played Maul.
No, not him.
That was the live action.
No, yeah,
Wasn't it?
I think we're on to a different part of the
the
universe,
the
though.
guy that had the so when Samuel L. Jackson got in the series,
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of his character, but I'd
You mean
like to
Qui
just
Gon?
see more. Not Qui-Gon. That was
Samuel
somebody else.
Jackson. No. He was crap. It was on the edge of my tongue, and then I said Qui Gon, and now I'm lost.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just want to see more like
Windu. Why did I say that? It's Windu. Anyway,
individual series. Like they're having an Obi-Wan. I'd like to see a Darth Maul. I'd like to see even a Darth Vader where it's more of like his point. I know we saw his story as he went, but I don't know, like more
now
just
you have my support on the Darth Vader one. I would love to see a Darth Vader series of him hunting down Jedi. That would be
yeah, like
dope.
just the individual takes on it gives it a whole new perception. So I know Darth Maul's dead, but like a live action one of him like growing into the Sith would be really cool to me.
I
Because
mean,
it's not
maybe. Like, I'm not dissuading it. I would just be like, he's been around for a while. If they're going to do a series where you want to get a different perspective, they would probably have to pick something else or come up with a new character to do that. Because as cool as Darth Maul is, they've gone through his story too much. Cody, you're muted.
that makes sense. But yeah, this new series is going to be absolutely insane. See, a lot of people are afraid of Disney taking over Star Wars, but they've done a really good job in the sense of putting so much content out there. We're getting to see a lot of good stuff. And I mean, the Mandalorian series was fantastic, so I can't even imagine how this is going to be.
I have a lot of high hopes for it.
I mean, even the Loki series, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just like that they're starting to focus on characters that got a lot of screen time, yes, but like were always interesting and we wanted to know more about them. Like, I've always felt that way about Loki, and now we have his own series on Disney Plus where it kind of explains more of his personality and why he does the things he does. And for me, like Darth Maul was such a I never watched any of the cartoons, so he was always such a strange character, and I got a comic book of the first edition where he was basically doing kind of like mercenary work. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I had no idea. This is like where he started ground floor. So for me, like to have a live action one, like we're doing with Boba, of like just different Star Wars characters that people find really attractive in the series would be just awesome to me. Even like a series just based on the Death Star and like maybe some crew members that work on the Death Star and like a story in that.
We
Just
kind of
like
had
we can do so much.
right. We kind of had that with Finn a little bit, though. I mean, not much, but
That's true. We actually did get to see a little bit into, which was really interesting.
Well, it was still not even close to being what it needed to be, but
Agreed.
because Finn, if you ask me, Finn should have been the main character of the sequels, but that's a whole different conversation for another
I
night.
agree.
yeah, I
I,
could see. Yes, I do agree with you on that. Yes.
I also like how the farther they got away from, because as the years go on, the farther people seem to get away from like the Force, the Jedi ways, and like controlling it with their minds.
hmm
Their lightsaber battle and the Force Awakens was awful. I mean, even Kylo Ren was terrible, and it just goes to show like how far, they've gone in
Or
their
how
universe.
bad the movie making was on that.
Especially the last one, where it's like you really, he's
Well,
still, you know,
That
like
the
there's no
Jedi
there's no
were.
in
the
lore explanation for bad choreography. I'm
he's
sorry.
still
See,
alive.
I
Like, Darth
literally thought
Sidious
the
is still
reason
alive.
I thought the reason that they did that was because back in the day, like there used to be a ton of Jedis, a ton of Sith, and then as the universe goes on, like the Force kind of dissipates, where a lot of people aren't seeing like Jedi or Sith, and so when they were battling, like they were the only two of their kind. So I was thinking the reason that the lightsaber battles were so bad was just because they were both like so new to the Force and like
No, because
they
Kylo Ren was trained by Luke Skywalker, who was trained by Obi-Wan and
hmm
Yoda. So it's like there's not even an in-lore explanation for this. This is just bad choreography. Now, Cody, what you said was actually really wonderful in theme building, but they didn't build that theme.
yeah, that's true.
So like
That would
what
have
if
been way better.
if what you just said was put in like a book with a lot more context and a lot more thematic added to it, you would be like dead on with archetypes and themes and how you would be going about this. But the reality is that they just didn't want to have or take the time to develop good choreography
Gave him
for
too
that
much
moment.
credit.
Yes, you did. That's the sum of the point. You gave them too
But
much
I
credit.
do have to say, yeah, you're right. I mean, because even in the Phantom Menace, like, look at those lightsaber battles. I mean, they were fucking outstanding.
Because the thing about Star Wars is like it's not about realism with Star Wars. It's always about the sort of sci-fi fantasy element to it. And if you when you have bad choreography with lightsabers, it's abundantly clear and it's a major turn off to
Yeah.
people.
Well, now the only thing that made sense is when Finn picked up the lightsaber and he wasn't that good. That made sense because
But
he
him
wasn't really a
holding
Jedi.
off Ren was just utter deplorable. Like the fact that he could still kind of go toe to toe with Kylo was immediately lore breaking to me. I was thrown
See,
out of the
again,
experience.
maybe I was giving them too much credit, but I felt like he didn't really want to kill them. Like he was going after him, but like I don't know.
Well,
I
then
never.
they should have had dialogue or something be like, "Finn, you don't have to be a traitor." Or something like that
Mm-hmm.
to
Is
justify
he?
why he wouldn't be killing him immediately like he does everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
even his own side.
But even
Anyways,
like even every time, like every film that we see, like it's always, you know, how you said like Kylo was trained by Luke, Luke was Obi-Wan, or and then vice versa. It's just all those different ones. It's like we always see the dark side turn to the we saw it with Anakin, we saw it with Kai, same thing. It's like they always do that where and then you're gonna come back to the light, and it's the whole thing. But we all knew that would happen. Now the way they sort of wrote the end of the story was totally absurd, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The
the
way
whole
it was just
thing
like
was absurd, but yes.
right, but at the same time, then you have somehow Darth Sidious and Ren is related to him,
I
I
and
would
that
have
actually
thing.
loved.
don't look. I actually don't mind if there's some weird connection with Palpatine Ray has. What I
I just
care
wish she
about,
would have been evil.
maybe, yeah.
But I just can't
Evil.
believe he was still alive. That's the thing that I'm like, yeah, there's no way. Like
I think
he's
I think a
there's
better
no way
plot
you
line
survive that fall.
for the sequel trilogy should have been like Ray actually joined Kylo to learn about more
Right.
of this, and then Finn was the one who helped bring her back. That would have been far better of a plot line. Even how crappy that plot line is would have been far better than this whole elaborate I'm related to Palpatine in some way, which I don't mind. Like I
Right.
actually don't think that in and of itself is a bad idea, but you have to build that idea. You can't just
Right.
drop it in
And
the last movie and be like, "Oh, hey, yeah, she's powerful because that's like no. No,
yeah,
no.
And
that's
tell
my
me how
point.
I would have taken 100 times over some sort of like bounty hunter like scene for 30 minutes of them, and just like the waste of the universe instead of them going to like that rich city and unleashing those like animals through
Yeah, that
the
was pure
palace.
politics. That was had nothing to do with the plot
That
whatsoever."
shit was
Yeah,
terrible. And I
that
was
w-
just thinking to myself, like, they could have been, just off, like, totally
yeah,
getting fucked up by some bounty hunters or gotten themselves caught in a mess.
You see,
that
because
was
here's
all about a political rights issue. That's what that
But
was.
that would have just been nice entry for, say, Boba Fett or Mandalorians or a different kind of race that you don't see a lot of. Like, just, I don't know.
And
but no, it's
yeah,
more
that would
about rich people and animal cruelty instead of, an actual plot line that makes sense.
hmm
Because even, and this is my problem with Finn, is that, like, Finn and Poe Dameron are probably the only characters I actually cared about throughout that entire story.
Right.
All right.
yeah.
So when I see Finn going off on some subplot that doesn't even matter half the time, and like I get, it's a piece we need. Great. A fetch quest. Awesome. Fetch quests are not that long, even in game.
hmm
So it's one of those things where it's just like you made this whole subplot about animals, and how was that connected to Ray?
hmm
Right. And
She's the main character, right? Everything kind of has, as much as I would hate to say this, everything kind of has to revolve around Ray to some extent.
But
So if
right,
there
but
wasn't some clue that related back to her, if there wasn't some plot point that helped her realize that maybe sending Finn was a mistake or that Finn found something out that was going to help her, no, they just went and got something. That's the relevance to the plot, and the 30 minutes of sneaking and doing stuff was unnecessary. It could have been a 5-minute plot just as effective, sending the same message. And that's my ultimate problem with this. That's anyway, it's bad writing because if you can sum up a plot in 2 sentences and still get to the point and still have the activism you want, that's just bad writing.
Something else I wanted to see is I wanted to see Luke Skywalker in person take on Kylo Ren. That would have been like, I know he used the Force to like project himself, which is cool.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see him like go into battle, like hardcore.
Well, because then at least it keeps with a well, it still keeps with the theme a little bit, but it would have sent home the message more of him emulating Obi-Wan to Rey. So
Hmm.
let's assume for a second that Rey and Luke actually had a productive relationship in their training. Luke Skywalker actually going out of his way to follow them and show up at the last second to help his sister and to help all these guys and stuff in person, and then to sacrifice himself the same way Obi-Wan did, that would have actually been better than what they.
So
We were talking about Boba Fett, and now we're on this, but yeah, that's that whole sequel thing. I want to see Finn get his own series as payment for how bad they treated him. I want to see Poe Dameron get his own series
yes,
about how
yes.
bad they treated him. And I want to
That's true.
see,
And also how his pilot background and history was as well. What made him become a pilot and all that.
well, he would just be, I think they could just continue the series where he's at now and just fighting
I,
the First
I mean,
Order. Because
I
the
would
First
like
Order,
to see.
I don't
Yeah.
think is actually gone. They didn't make that abundantly clear.
No, they didn't. They left it open. But I just would like to see Poe Dan like the story being, the young, the whole brought up, type thing. It would be
Yeah.
interesting just to see the background of it, and it would be a nice, yeah, be a nice series, I think.
But anyways, get back more on topic. So Cody, we all went through talking about what we saw from the trailer that we liked and what we're hoping for the Boba Fett series. What are your thoughts? You're muted again. Did you just go?
It did not. Let me look.
No, he's
No,
still here.
he's still there. He's just muted.
Okay.
Cody, you're muted.
Sorry. So for me, something I really enjoyed seeing in the new Boba Fett series was story, of course, we can all agree. Uh, him just kind of working as a mercenary for himself is going to be badass. But something I noticed was some new weapons that I haven't seen. The shields, the red shields that are pulled out by the guards in one of the fight scenes. I'm excited for that because for me, when they introduce new weapons or things I haven't seen, whether they're from the comics or the cartoons, I get really excited. Just like, when there's a new Fallout or Call of Duty and they have, different style weapons. So I saw a lot of cool guns, cool sword types or shields that I'm interested in getting the name and kind of background of. Um, I also liked how they changed up his outfit just a little bit in the series. Um, I know he was introduced and he was like, man, I want my armor back, but it's nice to see like he's going to be getting upgrades because, again, coming from like an RPG background, I like to see these characters develop, and I'm excited to see how his personality develops. Is he going to be? Are we going to see some of the soft side to him, like we saw with the Mandalorian, or is he going to be more hardcore and like ruthless in a sense? Like, is he going to be more criminal-esque, or is he just going to be? I'm doing this because I have to. I'm excited to see what his personality is going to be like compared to the Mandalorian. Is he going to stick by certain codes that his last guild stuck to? Is he completely going to go rogue and not really follow a code? Is he going to like screw people over? because the other Mandalorian was all about keeping to his word. But I'm wondering if Boba Fett's gonna be a little more treacherous. So I'm just really excited for the personality, for the combat, because we know he's more skilled, but he's older. Uh, and I hope that maybe they'll run into, it's probably not going to happen because I think all the clones were destroyed. But it'd be cool if he ran into another like clone of himself. Um,
Well, the clones
and
weren't
have,
destroyed; they retired.
okay, it would be cool if he ran into another clone of himself and maybe had to fight them, or was, impersonated. Like he goes to a town and people start attacking him because they're like, you were just here and you did this, this, and this. So I don't know. I'm excited for a lot. Mostly I'm excited for the dialogue. I want to see really like what kind of character he's going to be because he wasn't necessarily like evil in the other series, and he didn't seem that way in the Mandalorian. He seemed pretty laid back.
Well, you really,
So
Cody, honestly, I think you really need to, whenever you sit down and relax, just watch through some of the Clone Wars because they really sort of flesh out Boba's backstory and all of that, and you get to have a better idea of who he is as a character. Because he has a code of honor and he follows it. So I'm not worried about that aspect, but like he has like significant parts in the Clone Wars that really reveals to you what his sort of code of honor is, or at least how it's developing to what it's going to be in the series.
right, but we've even seen the Mandalorian break a rule, just in the name of survival
Well, I mean, we all
or
break
like
we all break
compassion.
rules in the name of survival at some point. So,
That's what I'm excited for. I want to see how far Boba's going to go in that sense. Is he going to be more rogue and just kind of be more lax about breaking the rules if he has to, or is he going to be, as tense as the Mandalorian was, where it's like the last dire moment. I don't know.
we'll see.
So
I mean the
we'll
show is
definitely
coming,
see.
so we will find
But
out for sure.
the new weapons in it and the shields, very excited for.
Well, Gungans had shields. So when you go back to the very first Phantom Menace, you actually see them there. But the shields that they have in here are far, far better. So definitely, definitely looking forward to that.
And I'm interested to see what his like. Can't think of her name, but she was in The Mandalorian as well. She's kind of like the sidekick of the series.
Finnick.
Finnick.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
she
found
was
out her
she
name.
was wild. She was absolutely wild in The Mandalorian. So I'm wondering, where her character development is going to be.
Well, when you're played by Mulan, I mean, you kind of have to be badass.
This is true.
So, well, cool. Definitely looking forward to seeing what the series got for us.
I almost think of Boba Fett as like a futuristic James Bond.
Really?
Yeah, or maybe like even a rogue uh, Master Chief. He
That
just seems,
I can see the Rogue Master Chief part.
but like even like he's not James Bond in the sense that he works for a company, but he's just kind of like when it comes to combat, dude. I don't know. It's just he doesn't really need the suit of armor to be completely destroying everyone in combat, especially hand to hand. It's just so like when he puts on the suit of armor, I don't know. It's just like James Bond hopping in some power armor or Master Chief.
That sort of
Um,
reminds me with the hand-to-hand thing. So, suppose if I'm remembering this correctly, supposedly uh, Boba actually was rescued by Sand Raiders and lived with them. So I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to be affecting the plot of all this. Because if he calls them in or something like that, he might actually be helping them set up
And
something.
they were in the trailer. Just a little bit, a glimpse.
Yeah. Well, I think Disney has been building up the Sand People for a bit, because it's one of those. It's one of those. Number one, I think it's one of those activism things that they might be wanting to get going, but also it's one of those things where like Sand Raiders, they they've becoming more and more fleshed out as a society the more and more we've watched them, and I'm really curious to see how they're going to implement them with Boba sort of being like a blood brother.
Hmm.
That is going to be cool because they're not, they're portrayed as like a bad race in the series, but really they're just like indigenous people that live in the desert.
So it's going to be, and with the rifles, that's something I really want to see
Oh
because
yeah.
because it's, I don't know, this is the part of Star Wars that kind of frustrates my brain a little bit because the reason why the Tusken Raider rifles are so effective is because they're actual bullets. So they're going to go through a good amount of stuff that is meant for blasters, and I'm just thinking to myself like, that would be pretty dope if just a few Tusken Raiders came in and wiped out a whole bunch of stormtroopers, stormtroopers.
Too. They just come into the Skyrim Elder Scrolls universe and just fucking wipe people out. I think it's funny how like they just so they live in the desert and the pod races will happen, right? They're probably just chilling out in their camps. And these pods come flying through, and they're like, "These damn kids!" And they just pull their rifles out. I mean, I don't know. They're kind of like, at least when I saw them in the movies, they always seemed like villains to me. But they're just, living their lives out there, and people are flying through, doing races, and I, I can see why they're kind of like defensive. They did, after all, they did take Anakin's mom, but I don't know. I think I kind of
Well, they're
look at
not.
them as like,
They're set up as villains to our protagonist a lot, but I think what they're going to try to do in Boba Fett is just sort of, because they did this in the Mandalorian, they sort of humanizing them to a point where you start realizing that there's really no good guys on that front, as generally
Hmm.
stories like these should be told, because
right.
a lot of the Tusken Raiders, I'm sure they're going to do this, is they're going to base it off of something like indigenous cultures with colonization or something like that. I guarantee it. But
And you're right about there being really no good guys. I mean, even the Jedi Order got lazy and so in fear of Anakin that they like pushed him away,
well, Plo Koon was
farther from
pretty
the.
dope. I mean, Plo Koon and Obi-Wan, they were just probably the most dope characters in all of the Jedi Order.
Well, yeah, but as for the rest of the Order, I think them not trusting him so much, made him feel even worse and pushed him farther away. And they just kind of like got lazy with it with him, and they were like their fear came off on him, and I think that just made him 10 times worse and go towards Palpatine for trust. So I really think, like when you said there's no good guys in the series, like yeah, the Jedi are technically the good guys, but all in all, there's so many flaws in each of the factions and races that really is just like I don't know.
Luke
There's
Skywalker
so
was
many
the only
gray
good
areas.
guy. Luke Skywalker was the only good guy, and then they ruined him in the sequels.
Yeah, that throwing the lightsaber thing was kind of stupid to me. I didn't enjoy it.
Because even Mark Hamill was like, we're taking the most positive person in all of Star Wars and making him cynical. You think that's going to go over well? It's like, no, it wasn't, and it didn't.
And he didn't play the cynical role very well either.
Well, it's Mark Hamill. He's not that kind of person to begin with, but also as an actor, like, number one, he's been far more successful as a voice actor. So you know he played the Joker, right?
Yes.
Okay. So like he knows how to play the bad guy as far as a personality goes. But the thing is that Luke is not a bad guy. He's not a cynical person. This whole entire character was about making the good happen. And I don't know, the sequels ruined my childhood. The prequels almost got there, but the sequels definitely did it. Because at least in the prequels, like, you had the clone troopers. You had things that made it really unique. There's nothing unique about the sequels. It's just anyway.
It's true.
And I'm actually curious to see how much of the Empire is going to be played in Boba Fett. So I honestly don't believe the Empire might. I think the Empire might not be that much of a focus in the first season. I think they might have like an episode or two, but not too much.
I hope we get some main character showings, kind of like what they did at the end of The Mandalorian, where some big known characters will come in every now and then.
I mean, the only one I could think of that would make sense would be something like Han Solo. But even then, I would say probably more of the characters from The Mandalorian than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because unless they want to take the new actor and then age him up and then throw him into Boba Fett, there's really no reason why we would be having him. Any other characters? Because I don't know. I'm just thinking about this on a logistic level. Like, how can you actually bring in? Because Luke Skywalker, they already did for the Mandalorian, so I don't think they would do that again. And then the only other character that's connected to Boba from the original trilogy would be Han Solo, because they had odds, they had history a little bit more. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, if they got the younger actor and sort of aged him up a little bit, and then threw him into a plot where like Han Solo's on some sort
Where
of mission with the New Republic or something like that, since his wife now is a senator in the Republic.
where is the time frame of this movie or this series with Boba Fett? It's after The Mandalorian, but is that like in between like The Force Awakens and the second to last movie, or like I'm trying
It's
to figure out the
so
timeline.
so the time frame is like 5 to 10 years after the Return of the Jedi. That's the time frame.
So what I'm saying is I want to see some so for example, there's Kylo Ren or Rey, or even Finn. We don't see these characters. Like they're not on camera completely throughout the entire series. There's times where they've had, history before those movies, and even parts of where we haven't seen them. It'd be cool to just like see some of those big names like pop into the Boba Fett slash
Like
Mandalorian
as
series.
characters or as just like
Just
Easter
kind of
eggs.
like Easter eggs, like they pop
Okay.
in and
Because we also have
they
to keep
do
in
like
mind these guys are like
example.
Kylo Ren's not even born yet, probably.
Like what I'm saying is the ones that are in the universe
Yeah,
currently.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because
So like he's just an example. Like say he pops in and gives him a handshake because there's like a deal where you even see him walk through the background to go talk to someone else. It'd just be cool to have these like little Easter eggs, kind of like Stan Lee when he did his cameos. It would be something like that where we would just get to see like a piece, and it just reminds us of where this is at in the timeline of the story. Like it kind of reminds us there's also other things going on in the story.
I mean,
Like when
we'll see on that. Because
I just like to see little Easter eggs like that. Like, oh, Boba Fett's doing this. Well,
I'm
A or
thinking what they're
B
going to
Jedi's
do
over
is
there.
more of the other series, though. So like they sort of did all they could with the Luke thing. That's where my head's at. It's not like saying I don't want to see this. It's just like Luke was the only character that would make sense why he would be there. Gru and all that kind of stuff. If we're going to have like a little cameo of something, I think Han Solo is the best bet, personally.
Yeah, like they didn't like Han Solo would be the best bet, or you know how they did the Jedi that had the like blue hair. I can't remember her race that they showed in Boba Fett or the Mandalorian.
You mean Ahsoka?
Ahsoka. Yeah, so like even characters like that just like we'll see, but they just haven't had
I mean,
a lot of
Ahsoka
live
might
action screen
work.
time.
Um, so Ahsoka's plot is dealing with Thrawn for the most part. So there might be an instance where she shows up for something. The only other character I can think of that sort of works for this time frame would be probably one of the characters from Rebels, the show. So I'm just thinking in my head, it would probably be like, what's her name? I can't remember her name right now, but the female Mandalorian from Rebels.
Oh,
Sabine, that's her name.
yeah.
So it would be Sabine from Rebels, I think, might come in to play on something if they were to do this. But the only other characters that would make sense to me would be either a new character or a character from the First Order showing up for something, and then they can drop cameos on that. Because Crimson Dawn might be a subplot for the first season. So that's Darth Maul technically. That's his legacy. So you can
See
have your
that's what I'm saying. I just like to see little tidbits of like the rest of the universe and what's going on, just to
they'll
keep in
have it.
mind
We're
like
talking
Boba
we're
Fett's
talking
over
about
here.
Dave Filoni and John Ferrer here. These guys are bigger geeks than us. They're going to have that.
I just love that Disney's just expanding on the lore so much. Yes, the cartoons are amazing. I don't bash those at all.
They're just
The
stealing
Clone
from
Wars is
Legends.
really good. I just really like seeing live action, and Disney's been doing it right. The only thing they did really wrong was the lightsaber battles, but we won't
And the
talk
sequels in general.
about it. True.
But no, it's going to be good. As far as just I don't know. We don't have enough information to make guesses too much right now. We kind of already did a little bit of that earlier with conversation with Eric, but I think as far as anything else that I'm predicting for the series would be something with the Forced Order is going to happen. I bet, or something with Thrawn's going to happen. Now that might bring Ahsoka into the plot, but I don't think that's going to happen since she's having her own show here. So something with the New Republic is definitely going to happen. So that might be where you have Han Solo come in because they're going to be needing him to sort of be the expert on the ground kind of deal, as he is in these sort of circumstances. Or be sort of a liaison to Boba Fett since he's the only one who might be able to talk with him.
I have an interesting topic. What is something that you guys are hoping we're not going to see, or a route it's not going to take?
Personally, I would think they should just hint at the Crimson Dawn. If they're setting that up, they shouldn't make it the first season. If they do that, then I'm just going to sort of clock out a little bit. Not that I don't think it won't be well done, but like one of my problems with The Mandalorian was that it escalated too quickly to the Empire, in my opinion. So like the first season should have been just him dealing with the ramifications of taking Gru. We shouldn't have had Moth, whatever his name is, come in that early in the show. I think the second season would have been a good time for him to show up and have these plots with them. But I felt that was kind of rushed. For Boba, I'm hoping for the same thing, where the Crimson Dawn, if they are going to make that the big adversary to Boba Fett's cartel, then they need to hint at that more in the first season instead of jumping into it. Because the Crimson Dawn has always been more of a subtlety thing, and having them have an all-out conflict this early doesn't make sense to me as far as a plot. So I'd hope they don't do that.
Do you guys think that something I'm hoping I don't see, but would also make sense, is do you think by the end of this series we're gonna see, Boba Fett maybe get finished off, or slash I wouldn't even want to say go into retirement, but more like get finished off at some point, or is it going to end on a note where it's like he's just continuing to be Boba Fett? Because something they did that was like a big shocker. They did that with the movie series that has come out recently, but I wonder with him getting into his older age, like, is the series going to be the end of him, or is it just going to be like giving us view into his life, and then we'll exit with him still being alive. So I don't know.
Well, I don't know about that one because the thing about being a mob boss is that you're never really done being a mob boss. So we'll see what that is. But I think what they would do is set it up to a point where Boba Fett is sort of the leader of the new cartel in the galaxy. And then you would have him just play that role for the rest of his canonical life. Because the actor himself is also kind of getting to that age where, older roles are going to be more prevalent. So I'm thinking this show is kind of them trying to get the actor in so they can play Boba Fett properly before they get him into more of a elder wise or elder cynical wise mentor to characters, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Eric,
Yep.
what do you not want to see from Boba Fett?
I don't know. I mean, I want to see the territory be taken and things like that. And
But what's one thing you're not wanting to see? What's the thing that you really hope they don't do?
um, where there isn't a good, I guess the story. I just want to make sure there's good dialogue, there's a good story, there's a good basis for everything, and there's good just, I guess, background on where they're going with the story, and as far as just, I don't know, just a good narrative in the end, and not make it, something where out of the blue something happens, and that, okay, here we go again, classic Disney.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely don't want it to be rushed.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest fears. I don't want them rushing through plots here. Just take your time. You're Disney. You have the budget to take your time.
Like what they did with Loki. I want every episode to be a cliffhanger, and I want it to take its time getting there. Where I'm sitting down and taking a whole day to binge watch one season. That's like how good I want it to be with the dialogue. But sometimes um, series will just like rush, and you're like, oh, I've already, you know, solved a huge plot issue within 2 episodes, and now like I've hit a climax in the series, and now we're kind of like going downhill again. It's getting slow. It's just something I've noticed in certain like series that I'll watch. For a little bit I was watching the show based off the movie Limitless, and it was also called Limitless, but it was just the series, and it like shot off really hard in the beginning, but it went so fast, and like all these crazy plots were revealed so early that like the last 3 seasons were just slow. It was just like romance, and which is fine, but like he kind of was like done being a badass after the first few seasons. And I just hope, like you guys said, they take their time, because there's nothing worse than like a good dialogue and good character development just being like completely rushed. Like I could see them getting like 4 to 5 seasons out of this. Don't make just like 2 and smash it all. Like I want to be on this for a while.
Yeah. Pretty much around on the same page with that. I don't really
Like
see.
kind of like what they're doing with what they did with the Clone Wars. The cartoons had so many seasons. We need them to do the same thing with like live action. Like the Mandalorian, I'm still waiting for season 2. Kind of like what they did with Stranger Things. Stranger Things was good enough for I'm anticipating season 4 or 5. I can't remember which one to come out, but every episode left me on the edge of my seat, and they really took their time building up a like a nasty plot.
Mm-hmm.
If I can solve the plot in the first few episodes, like I'm gonna be disappointed.
Well, I mean,
I want
there's
I
going to
want
be multiple plots in this one because he's essentially taking over things. So there's going to be the overall plot should not be more than a few episodes, but there's still going to be like major subplots that they're going to be going through in a few ones. Because if this is like 12 episodes a season or 10 episodes a season, then there's going to be a few things rushed in the beginning for sake of time, just to get to the point. So then we can have the better plot points with the longer stuff. That's how I'm going to picture it happening. I'm going to set that expectation up. I don't see it working any other way at the moment. But definitely the longer subplots need to be fleshed out. But the whole him taking over the cartel, that's going to be an episode, guarantee it.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna wander. I guarantee this is how the first episode's going to go. He's going to wander around, fight a couple cartel guys, take over Jabba the Hutt, or if he hasn't already by the time the episode starts, take over Jabba the Hutt's palace and be like, "Hey guys, we need to be working together now since I'm in charge."
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. The cartel has him as the head, and then he's focusing, at least on the next episode or two, on building up his alliances. I guarantee you that's how that's going to go. If I'm wrong, I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I'm pretty sure that's how that's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I think that's going to do it for the podcast tonight. So I probably will be up and loading this Saturday. A part of me says that we should upload this ASAP, but
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like keeping to the time frame might be a good idea. But anyways, well, I'll decide what I'm going to do on that. Anyways, I want to thank you all for watching the podcast tonight. Thank you, Cody and Eric, for joining with me on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, bye.
All right. See you guys.
Cody, say goodbye to the audience.
Bye.
Bubba asked me about that blue flame. I told him we don't sell drinks no more.
Alrighty.
All right.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for watching our podcast. We do appreciate it. We will try to be uploading our podcast videos every Saturday. If you guys want to catch us when we do our podcast live, feel free to follow us on Twitch. The link will be in the description below, along with all of our other links to our personal channels. And in the meantime, I wish you all a wonderful, blessed rest of the night, and I will see you all again soon. Peace.